Welcome back. This is Queer H CEO with Entrepreneur Beginnings. I am here with Jes Richard. Today we will be discussing her journey in entrepreneurship and what she has going on. If you're just tuning in with us for the first time, Entrepreneur Beginnings was designed to share the stories that we don't really hear of how it was to become an entrepreneur, the struggles we went through, and how we got to where we are today. Today we will be promoting Covenant House. Covenant House is a wonderful organization that helps homeless people throughout the United States, and they also have some global programs. If you are interested in that, there are going to be some links in some of the different social media platforms. Go ahead and select that, and it will take you to their site. So today, Jes Richard, if you've never heard of her before, now's a great time to learn of her, learn about her. She is the author of Everything I Know I Learned from My Pimp, Surviving Trafficking and the Anti-Trafficking Movement. You can visit her website at www.jesrich.com. Awesome. Hi, Jes. How are you today?
Hi, I am so excited to be here. I have followed you for so many years, and I just love everything about you. You bless my soul, and that makes me so very happy. So thank you.
Thank you. I never thought that we would have this conversation like in this platform, the way that we're like things have just evolved over the past few years. So it's nice watching you. I watch you religiously. I've seen you, with all of your different I never knew what it took to be an entrepreneur, and I've seen that side of you, and I can't wait to share your story with the world.
I am a serial entrepreneur. I'm also a Gemini, and so I love to try things and experiment and learn and grow. And I'm 42. It took me a while I knew my story, I knew my passion, I knew my purpose. It took me a while to figure out what exactly I wanted to do. And I think that's part of the entrepreneur journey, is that you just kind of throw spaghetti at the wall until you find a sweet spot that makes you come alive. And I pop out of bed. I'm ready because I love who I work with, how I work with them, and what I do. And
Absolutely.
that is the sweet spot of living your own life, right? That's freedom.
Absolutely. And I think that it takes people a long time to get there. And there's this huge misconception that we're supposed to have an understanding when we're 19, 20 years old. And so a lot of times, you remember what it was like to be 18 or 19 years old, to be super ambitious and wonder why your whole life is falling apart. It was never falling apart. It was falling in place. And I'm going to be 40. So when I thought it was falling apart, it's just been falling in place the past 20 years,
Well, and get this, when I was 18, 19, and 20, I was actually running a hella big escort service on the West Coast. And so I was pulling $30,000 to $50,000 a month. And that was after escaping my pimp. And so it was money I was actually keeping. The money mindset that I received during that season of my life was so profound, because prior to being in the industry on my own, when I was trafficked, I had to make $1,000 a day. That was my quota. And so here I am, 17 years old. I don't know shit about shit in the world, totally naive, well aware of the way I look, and you think I'm cute now, you should have seen me at 17. 70 pounds lighter too. But
you still look great.
Well, thank you. I think so. I got 5 babies, so that's not too bad. But I had this ingrained in my head that I am worth $1,000 a day.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're 17, all my friends are smoking weed behind the gym at school, and I'm have to cash flow, $1,000 a day, no exceptions. That does amazing things to your brain, because I understood my worth.
Exactly.
And really, entrepreneurship's about sales.
Absolutely. And with that, you really took me back to when I was in Hollywood, and I was like, what was my number? What was my number back then? And so a lot of people don't realize we were CEOs of our companies with some bad people around us, but you're running your game. So
Right.
tell us, so where are you now? Like, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are right now, and then we're going to dig deep. We're going to get
Okay.
there.
This is so wild. Well, today I am in Las Vegas. I have lived here since we moved here January of 2020, so 2 months before the pandemic lockdown.
Yeah.
And it has been such a weird journey. I have traveled a lot throughout the US and have landed here. I quite love it. I love the sunshine and the warm, and every day, like it's Thanksgiving week and it's been like mid 70s and I am in love.
It's beautiful. Oh my goodness.
So I do have, today is my oldest child's 21st birthday.
What?
Right?
Wow.
My oldest is 21. My baby is about to turn 11. So I have 3 girls, 2 boys, 10, almost 11, 14, 13, 14, 16, and 21.
Wow.
And we've homeschooled, more like unschooled. I'm kind of like a rage against the system kind of a person. I tried with my kids in school, didn't like it. I was like, I can do better than this. It's not hard to do better than the public school system. And so every aspect of my life, I have just created in a way that is intentional, that works for my family. So my kids are home and with me, and they build and do everything with me. They're my filmers.
Absolutely.
They hold
this
the camera.
Is impressive to be juggling not only like marriage life, home life, motherhood, then you're an entrepreneur, and then you have your own personal self and yourself and your growth on top of your spiritual individuality on top of it all. How do you balance all that?
I am organized.
Wow.
I am so super organized because here's the deal. I don't do anything that doesn't bring me joy or make me money. Period.
That's a good way to be. Yeah.
It's really, really that simple, because if it's not making me money or making me happy, why the hell am I doing it?
I couldn't agree more. And that's where a lot of people want to be, right? When they take that first, 1099 position, and they're like, "Oh, I'm working for myself." It's a lot of work to get to that point where you're like, "Yes, now I have control to do exactly what I want."
You can do it as an employee. You can
tell us more.
You can do it at any point in your life. All that says is the death of entitlement and codependency.
Yes.
All that does, when I say I don't do anything that doesn't make me money or bring me joy, it means I am responsible for my life. The things that happen to me, not my fault. I'm responsible for what I do with it.
Exactly.
So I have responsibility within my life that kills the entitlement. And then the brings me joy or makes me money is really just what I do with my time. And
I love what you just,
There's times where it's like I needed to take a job. When my youngest son was paralyzed, I bartended because I couldn't handle running a business because I had a son on hospice. And I was like, I need to be able to make money. Like, I go to work, check out. All my brain power was in helping my family.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything else. And I was still pulling $40-$50 an hour bartending because I just am who I am. But and still, does it make me money or bring me joy? It sure as hell made me money. So I need to do that.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about breaking the codependency, is because, as an entrepreneur myself, I realized, I was like, I need to fund this. I need to keep going. And in order to keep going, I have to take a job. I have to work for someone. I have to go, calling my partners and saying, "Hey, are you guys hiring?" I know they're hiring. I know you are. You better hire me. So it's not about pride, and it's not about entitlement. It's about staying true to your mission and to your vision, and making sure to nurture that in any way that you can. And it sounds like that's what you've done this whole time. I love that.
It's life is what you make it. It can be as easy or as hard. It can be as busy and overwhelming or as simple and playful. It's so many times we are frustrated with what life gives us. It gives us overwhelming situations, bad news, more debt, more problems, more this, more that. And the reason that's happening is because the universe is confused. And whether you call it universe, source, God, whatever you want to call it, when the universe is confused about what you want, what your intentions are, it's going to give you more of the same. It's going to give you more confusion, more overwhelm, and more frustration. So the number one agenda is to get crystal effing clear on who you are, what you want, who you serve, and how you help them. Once you have those things, and I have spent the better part of 20 years figuring that shit out. Mm-hmm. Once you figure those critical 4 questions out, you can do anything.
What you just said resonates with me as a brand new entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And as you know, what today is November 21st. I started this on August 3rd. If I knew those 4 things on August 3rd, things would be different. Mm-hmm. I was going into it self-servingly, right? Mm-hmm. Because I saw a problem and I need to fix it because no. Yeah. But then as evolution happens in entrepreneurship and I started to grow and I started to see different processes, mm-hmm. It was no longer for me. Now I was serving more people. First, it was entrepreneurs, and then it was the people within the United States to give people jobs, and then globally. And guess what? Ever since I figured out who I'm serving, what my mission is, and having that clarity, everything is starting to fall into place. And it takes us time. So if you're not there yet, that's fine, but you will get there. You just got to stay true to your values and your ethics.
Yeah, all entrepreneurship is like clarity and consistency, focus and consistency, systems and consistency. Like that's it. Like it is not rocket science. Like it's just my mom was a professional organizer and she had this big sign that she always, every house, it said simplify. Mm-hmm. And that stayed with me for so long and is really the driving force behind what I do. I actually just launched my business the beginning of this month because, you know what, I'm just going to tell you a story real quick because this is fun.
Yes.
So I have been on this long journey. I am what I call a forced entrepreneur. I didn't choose this life chose me. It just is what it is.
On a monumental level, yes.
Right. And because I'm just going to go all the way back. Can I just share? I can do it quick.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. No, we have 45 minutes.
Yay. Okay. I was born in 1979. Makes me 42. And my parents loved me. They cared for me, but they also came from generational trauma. And so as that generational trauma plays out, silence doesn't help. Mm. So my mom's silence, my dad's silence, that we don't talk about it. This doesn't, it happened. We're doing something different with you. But the not addressing it allowed their subconscious to let all of the darkness into young me. Mm. And so when I started being sexually abused, I didn't know it was sexual abuse. It was 1983. No one talked about rape to 4-year-olds, Yeah. And the people who were abusing me, they were teenagers themselves. Someone showed them love in the same way they showed me love. And The reason I tell these stories is because they're relatable for so many of us as entrepreneurs, because we don't know why we do things. Yeah. But we all do things for reasons. Doesn't make some of the things we did, it doesn't make it okay, but it makes it understandable. So when you see the bigger picture of how I got here to this point, it's the culmination of that. Yeah. And then my father being murdered when I was 10. And then starting to run away at 13. I've been on my own since I was 14. And then ended up going to a Job Corps program. I got my GED. I dropped out of high school in 10th grade, got my GED, ended up running with gangs, getting raped in. I ended up seeing people die and knowing I, as a white person, being the only white person, I was like, I'm wearing a big fucking target. Sorry, mouth. I'm wearing a big target. And it just wasn't, I was like, I am going to get killed. Ended up being trafficked. And that's where I got my foundation of business, was understanding cash flow and money. And I actually did my first deal, and that was how I escaped him. I took one of the biggest chances of my life, like huge courage. I was studying law. So I would go and I would see a client, and I would dole money out to my pimp, hiding part of it. I would like make $2,000 and then, oh no, he was cheap. He only gave me 400. Here you go. Yeah. And I would dole money out. I was buying myself time because I was going into the law library in Seattle, and I was learning the laws around the sex industry. And wow. I started to play with my clients in a different way. I was like, oh, I can't do that. Like this, like, I don't want to break any laws. And yet I was getting the money. Yeah. So I started working on my sales, my negotiation, those things. One of the escort services that I worked for, this woman calls me and she's like, what are you doing? Yeah. You're doing something different. I've had 2 girls picked up. I'm about to go to prison if I get one more girl picked up. I will help you, you help me. And I took the biggest chance in my life. And I told her what was going on with my pimp and that I needed help away. She says, I will help you get away, and I will guarantee you an income through my service if you help me rebuild and train my people. Yeah. And wow. I said, okay. That's huge. That was over the next 3 years. She hid me. She never once, and he was relentless. She hid me. And I helped her build one of the largest services on the West Coast. So that was my introduction to entrepreneurship. And it was also during that time that I saw a digital camera for the first time, because the internet is just being invented. And that's right. Right? Yeah. Like, I'm that old. Yeah. And I'm not even old. That's the funny part. The world has changed so much. So I started to help people, but then honestly, I lost my mind. And I was so. How could you not, though, with all of everything that you have gone through? Exactly. And then just, that's a huge thing to go through. Everyone told me that I was always going to be messed up. I would never be okay. There's those quotes. There's some things you just can't heal from. There's some things you just can't overcome. And there was this fire inside of me that I was just like, watch me. Watch me. I am the same way. Like, you can't tell me I can't do something, because I will do it. Right. And that's the thing about being human beings, is that we are resilient, and given the right environment and the right self-awareness and and I'm not going to say people, the environment, we create that. We surround ourselves with who we surround ourselves with. We don't get healed by our surroundings. We heal internally, and then our surroundings start to change and blossom organically, and so people don't know that. True change comes from the inside out. It is not from the outside in. We need to impact our outside by transforming on the inside. Absolutely. And that is truly the beauty of life, because you feel better about yourself before the weight comes off, before the money's made. The reason why the whole woo-woo world is like be, do, have is because it works. You have to be that before you do it, before you have it. Yeah. I have to ask you a question. And so, because you already asked, I always ask people, where did your passion come from and what drives you? You just said it, right? Yeah, but I lived. You lived, exactly. Did you ever get arrested? Because there's a huge population of people out there that, they want to start businesses, but they're not able to because they have felonies.
They're felonies.
That's why I am an entrepreneur. Yes, I'm essentially unemployable.
Yeah.
And that's why I said I'm a forced entrepreneur. I didn't choose this life. It chose me. And
Absolutely.
it's because of how it started that. And okay, I want you to imagine for a second. You're used to making $1,000 a day. Now you go to McDonald's, Walmart, whatever place, and they're like, fill out an application. You're going to make $8.25 an hour. You know what I'm thinking?
$8.25 an hour.
Not on me. No, I'm not. And that, not even possible.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you out of your mind? So my very first thing, I actually ended up finding out I was pregnant. And that is a daughter who's 21 today. I found out I was pregnant and I was like, I need to do something different. And I started working for a company that sells long-term care insurance and annuities. So I ended up getting my life and health license and being in a white male-dominated sales environment.
Yes.
Which was, for 21-year-old me, I was like, shit, I can do this because I was used to them being my clients.
Yeah.
And but it put me in a more corporate environment and I was falling apart, but I was a beast on the phones. I was doing 400 cold calls a day, setting more appointments than anyone had ever. I broke every record hustle.
Yeah.
Like I was hustling and
because you were trained, whether you like it or not, you were trained to have a work ethic, and people don't realize that when you come from the streets.
Slavery gives you one hell of a work ethic.
Because you have to keep going no matter what. You have to find that sweet spot to keep your sanity, and then you work within that. Yeah,
exactly. So I had this moment. And one of the people I was setting appointments for, one of the salesmen, he gave me a book called Boundaries, and like this is. Oh my goodness, like 2002-ish, a good grip ago. Yeah.
19 years ago.
Right. He gave me this book, Boundaries, and I started just consuming it. It was my introduction into like self-help and what they now call like NLP and like basically just taking responsibility for your own shit and handling it. So I got this introduction to it, and at the same time, I was actually plotting to become a serial killer.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Tell us more.
It's going to get real. So I was so mad at the world and I hated everyone because I'd been raped so many times. I'm not talking about my clients in the sex industry, but you can be raped while in the sex industry, right? Because that's, people do scandalous shiz. And so between all that I had been through, I'd been raped so many times and all I could think about was justice. I wanted justice for everything that had happened to me. I wanted to see every freaking prick dead. And I was serious. And yet I had this little girl that's like 1.5 years old. And I'm like, how does this work? How can I do this? And I'll never forget it. I was sitting at my desk in my cubicle, call center type thing. Yeah. And I'm wearing a gray and black sweater and black slacks. And I hit a wall like I have never hit. I climbed under my desk. I curled up in the fetal position and I snot bubble cried. I sobbed like I have never sobbed in my life. And I learned something that day. I learned the power of a decision. I made 2 decisions under my desk. I said, I want to be able to look in the mirror and say, Jess, I love you. I'm proud of you. You're special. You're important. You matter. You are worth something. And you are fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
And the next thing I wanted was to sleep at night. I had night terrors for so many years that I didn't know what sleep felt like. And making those 2 decisions under my desk that day, what I did was I created a North Star for myself. I didn't know how I was going to get to that North Star, but I was going to start walking. And I was going to walk and I was going to walk until I hit that. And what I wanted more than anything was joy. I wanted to be able to dance in the rain. I wanted to be able to laugh through anything. I wanted a life that I didn't know existed, and I was relentless to get there.
Absolutely.
So that started my journey of healing. And over the next few years, I made really significant progress. Yeah. I read everything. I tried everything. Like, I threw it all at the wall.
And that in itself is part, and for people that are like, well, what does that have to do with being an entrepreneur? It has everything to do, because we all get to that breaking point. It doesn't matter whether your life was bad, that moment that makes you, you make that decision and you commit to it. Right. The best entrepreneurs come from those moments, right? And we don't share those moments enough. We don't. Right. So thank you for sharing that.
That's actually what makes the entrepreneur. Okay, I don't remember who said it, but there's some famous dude who's probably white who said, determination can get you to the high places, but only integrity will keep you there.
All day long. I love that. We're going to find out who wrote that, because that is a wonderful quote.
If it's not a direct quote, I want that shit.
Yes, absolutely. And as long as that's your North Star, right? That is what keeps us going. And so for me, as an entrepreneur, my North Star is not deterring from what I hold true to my values and my ethics. And so if something seems unethical or something seems questionable and I'm not comfortable with that, well, guess what? I'm no longer not only going to not do business with you, but I'm going to find out how to do your job and how to own your business. So that way you are now my competitor, because you did it wrong the first time. Right. And no one's going to like me. I always say, no one's going to like me. My own mother doesn't like me. That's my favorite quote, because I've never met the woman. However, that is my outside persona, right? But in the inside, I'm just like, I just want everything just to be okay. I just need my North Star, going to keep on going no matter what.
Right.
And so we do crumble, and it's not about, we have to allow ourselves to get to that place, to get to that next level, right? And it's all about leveling up, not to the outside world, but to ourselves.
Well, entrepreneurship will break you because it's kind of like parenting. Because both with parenting and a business, you are creating something, growing it, and then it goes and does its own damn thing. Yeah. And you have to trust that you laid the foundation, that you put the right policies and procedures or standards and understanding in place. And then you have to trust that it will do its own thing.
Absolutely.
It takes on its own life. And so for me, my journey as a parent has really mirrored my journey as an entrepreneur, because we can control very little of what we're actually responsible for. Mm-hmm. What we control is only 3 things. But I am responsible for a very long list of things. And knowing the difference between the two is critical when you're trying to look at what you want to do, what you need to do, and where you need to go. Does that make sense?
100%. So like the other day I had that moment of like, okay, I was afraid. And have you ever heard of the phrase paralysis through analysis? That's where I was as an entrepreneur. I was so stuck trying to be compliant. How am I going to create a compliance company when I'm not compliant? And then you know what I did? I started looking for a job, not because I gave up on my dream, but because I had to support it. And then I found what you just said. The most important part of a company is having those policies in place and having that mission in place and having that. And you were saying the SOPs, right?
Systems,
having your SOP, having all your systems and everything in place. You did your job. Mm-hmm. Now you let it take, you're going to have a whole bunch of people. You can't control who those people are that are going to work for you. You can filter them out.
Right.
And then, so I went and I looked at a job and I looked at Google. Do you know, I went and I tried to do something and I said, wow, I'm responsible for this much? What in the world? And then I was like, how did you do this? It takes us to build that foundation and that core, and then we build, and then it is out of our control after that.
Yeah, once you put it out there, and I'm a writer as well. And it's really important for anyone who is publishing content of any form, whether you're writing blogs, you're writing articles, you're a TikToker, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
When you publish, up until the point where you press publish, it goes live, that is your thing. Create the best thing you can. The moment you publish, that is when you let go.
Mm-hmm.
Because like art, it takes on a world of its own, and you want people to interpret your words and videos in their own way. You want people to take and expand on your thoughts. I even want haters. Because of my book, I've gotten death threats for years.
Oh, wow.
And I'm totally...
Remind us what the name of your book is again?
Everything I Know I Learned from My Pimp. And then the subtitle is Surviving Trafficking and the Anti-Trafficking Movement.
I love that. Oh my goodness, I have to read that.
So, but because of that, those haters actually feed me.
Mm-hmm.
And I want more haters, because if I get one hater for every 100 people that love my stuff, how many people would I have if I had 1,000 haters?
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yes,
like
you want that. Yeah.
I want the haters. And you know what? When they give me that hate, all I do is make a meme. And I'm like, oh, look at him go. I'm going to make a meme out of this. And it doesn't faze me at all, because I can look around my house and go, wow, I'm safe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're just triggered and angry.
How long did it take you to write your book?
12 years.
Hey, people need to know that, though. People need to know. Exactly. That's important.
Honestly, it's taken me about 42 years. Because I started writing about 12 years ago, only because I saw it on my memories on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual post was, this week, write a book. Next week, land on the moon. And I was like, it felt like such a huge undertaking. And it was. And I learned so much along the way, not just about writing stories, but then writing in a way that helps people understand a perspective that's different. Because when I first started sharing my story and went public about being trafficked, I was actually already an entrepreneur. I was already successful in my community. I was really deeply involved in my church and in the Chamber of Commerce. I lived outside of Portland, Oregon, in one of the suburbs, Gresham. And I was really involved. And when I decided to go public, the church completely rejected us. And that is a whole nother ballgame. I have since deconverted and am following a path of love.
Yes.
But during that time, I was just doing what I thought was right.
Mm-hmm.
And I went public with my story because I heard about trafficking in this really shocking way in a hotel that I was trafficked in. I'm there at a conference for women in business. And I was just like, whoa, there's a word for this. And it was like, I have to do something. And I knew, because of the privilege I've been given, simply the way I look, because I didn't have a lot of other privileges. I'm not formally educated. It did not come from money. Both of my parents are deceased. I'm the oldest in my bloodline right now. All of these things were stacked against me, except for this.
Yeah.
And I had to try to figure out how to navigate forward. So I'm sharing my story, and I get these micro hits of fame. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I needed to listen and keep stepping forward. So I literally did over 900 presentations in my first 18 months.
Wow.
Right. And I was learning to do stage work. I asked for the mic. They handed it to me. That is my privilege.
Yeah.
But I did not know how to do stage work like that. So there was no book for how to tell a story of the worst things in your life and make money from it.
Yeah. That.
Right? And so I just started learning in that process of being vulnerable. I started really helping people in a different way because I had already been coaching and helping people. But I learned how to tell stories in a way that were inspiring, that were helpful, that didn't leave people, like they wanted to slit their wrist when I was done. And that journey of learning how to tell stories, really go deep to the heart of things, is what gave me the biggest advantage when it came to marketing and business.
Yeah.
Because those stories make us absolutely magnetic. I just simply attract in my energy, in my voice, the perfect people for me. And then I repel the ones who don't like my stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that's super important. And like for me, it's the same way, right? And so people, when I did Queer Hispanic CEO as my handle, people actually like, are you concerned that you're kind of like not going to get the audience? And I'm like, I think it's going to deter the people that I'm not supposed to have near me, And so for someone, with a history like so rich as yours, that's very rare, and that you're a role model, and even whether it's not even just for people that have been trafficked, and I do say people intentionally, but for people in general that may think that they are living in their worst moment, you can all get through it.
Right.
If you can get through it the way you have so gracefully now, wrapped in a bow, that's how, now we're able to talk about the story and then, monetize on it. You have to. I used to not tell my story because it just felt awkward, right? Because that word trafficked, when that came out, I was like, ooh, that's not my story. That is not my story. And so people, I have friends that have gone to DC and that have shared their story about being trafficked. I'm like, yeah, that's not my story. Mine is similar, but it's very different,
That's the beauty of it.
And it's so strange. Different. Like I had the luxury of like telling one of the biggest star escort services no. Like I said no, and it makes me feel bad for the people that didn't get that opportunity to say no. You know what I mean? Like it's really unfortunate. It's just very different. I'm from Hollywood, there's literally from Hollywood, California. I was in the epitome of it all. Yeah. So you speak my language all day long. I really appreciate that.
What's amazing about this is that some people can relate, others can't.
Yeah.
But what makes us connect is not how similar our stories are. What actually makes anyone connect is the feelings. Mm-hmm. Because people might not be able to relate to, I was trafficked, or I was in the industry, I was in this. But they can experience, they do understand the experiences of being used, of being taken for granted, of being hurt, of loss, of grief, abandonment, like all of these issues, like those feelings are what trump the actual details of the story. So absolutely. When you tell stories, it's about go deep into the feelings. So many times we share stories and it's just like da 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 da. But if you share the feelings associated, then it makes it so much more relatable. And we're not, I hate to say it, like we are very unique, and yet we are so not unique.
Right? Say it again. All day long. Yes.
Look at the personality tests. You have all of these different types of personality tests, and even the most complex ones have 16 categories. So we're going to play Plinkle-Ball. Do you know what Plinkle-Ball is?
No, tell me.
Okay. What? So like you're at a carnival or at a place where like you dump a bunch of balls in and they go through the pegs and like Plinkle-Ball. Do you know what
I'm talking about? Isn't that entrepreneurship? Isn't that entrepreneurship as well?
Yes.
Yeah, like we just drop all the balls and see where it goes.
Right, exactly. So this is how humanity is. We have 8 billion people approximately on this planet, and the most complex personality test is 16 buckets. So if you dump 8 billion balls into the top of a Plinkle ball machine, there's only 16 buckets that it falls into. We are not that complicated.
Well, unless you're like me, and so I have 32 because I'm a Gemini, so
Right.
I have 2 personalities.
Oh, we're
so
both
each of
Gemini?
them have so you technically you have 32
Right.
too. So what
Yeah.
one personality has 16 and the other one has 16. So what, don't we have 32?
Well, yeah, but 8 billion people into 32 buckets, we could put it into 1,000 buckets. Like, let's
For real,
say
though.
everybody in humanity fell into 1,000 buckets. Like, that's
And that's
still
where we
just
go
not
wrong,
many.
though. And that's what's great about you being a woman in leadership as well, is to be able to recognize that we don't all fit in these buckets, right? And so for me, in the future that I have in business, I think, no, everyone cannot fit in the bucket. The only reason why I asked about the jail thing is because I have this woman that lives next door that she always says, oh, but I have a felony or I was arrested. And I was like, so? And she's like, she has a hard time getting apartments, housing. She's kind of just restricted from just moving on with her life and growing. And I said, okay, so let me see what I can do, because that's not right. You know,
Right.
you deserve an opportunity to grow beyond what you've been given, right?
Right.
And so I was like, how do I create an infrastructure where you are empowered to live your best life and have access to funds and make that with an ethical company that trusts and believes in you, not treats you like a handicapped criminal, or or like something that, not a handicap, that would be,
Right.
but you know what I mean, like that disadvantage.
We can go
I
there.
want you to be a person.
A handicap, like anytime there's a disability, you get treated differently in the workforce.
Yep.
Screw that. Like, we have the ability. This is what I love about entrepreneurship. We have the ability to not just create a life for ourselves, but to impact. Like, I love working with my affiliates and my employees. Why? Because I am helping them pay their bills.
Yep.
And then I love working with my clients because I'm helping them build their businesses so their employees can pay their bills.
Absolutely.
That is putting the power back in the hands of the people.
Yeah, 100%.
And capitalism has a real bad rap. Capitalism is unhinged in the US, but I love capitalism.
Yeah.
I do it my own way. And I call myself a kind capitalist.
Yeah.
Because capitalism is only bad when you remove the nature of humanity and care.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the ability to actually treat people and hire people the way we want to be treated and hired.
Exactly.
Like,
100%. And a lot of people don't realize that. So like, that was when I found my who am I serving, right? And so instead of it being a self-serving, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm going to do things differently, it became who are the lives that I can touch? Who are the people that I can empower? And so I separated my companies. I have corporate diagnostic centers, super business service, data, all this stuff. But now I also have Diamond Kingdom International. And Diamond Kingdom International can hire everybody no matter what, and give them jobs no matter where they are. Do you think I went into this knowing that I was going to do that? No, I did not. But the more that big companies trusted me with their brand, the more of a responsibility it became for me to empower more people, right? And so capitalism is important. It 100% is important, because now I have the freedom as a business leader, as a CEO, to go out and monetize, right? And then utilize those funds to distribute them nationwide and globally. And I lead with, my hashtag is leading with PTSD. Hashtag leading with PTSD. Do I let that stop me? No. I keep going. Just like you keep going. You are so wonderful.
Oh, so I love this stuff, because my number one value in life is freedom.
Yeah.
But freedom is an internal job. And I learned that very, very young because how I always have read a lot of autobiographies and biographies. I was like, how can you have people coming from prisons and concentration camps and stuff like that who have more joy than like people who have everything?
Mm-hmm.
And it occurred to me at a very young age that freedom is something that is for you and on the inside. It's an inside job. And from that space of freedom, you can do anything. And then just to really throw a mucky rich in it, because I did have this problem of hustle, hustle, hustle. Slavery gives you one hell of a work ethic. And I damn near killed myself.
Yeah.
I worked my face off until I couldn't work anymore. I was so burnt out, so spent, so exhausted. And right at that point, a number of people from my team died. And it was this really odd space and time where it was like this things that weren't my fault, but it was like it's really impacted me. Like there were a couple suicides, taking a nap and not waking up, like those types of things that I lost my everything. I just lost it. Yeah. I walked away from my nonprofit. I walked away from my consulting agency. I literally left and went underground. Yeah. And I spent years, like I met you during that phase when I had the nonprofit and consulting, and then I lost it all. And I literally lost weight, cut my hair, and moved to a different state.
And sometimes you need to do that. There is so much power in that. People don't realize that sometimes you really just need to cut your hair. Buy a new jacket and move to another state.
That was when I started bartending because I was so burnt out and done. And it was so funny because I literally could not have any of my potential employers Google my name. And so I wrote the most insane resume you have ever seen. It looks like something, I've got to find it. It looks like something that would be passed around on Reddit because it was all comedy, tongue-in-cheek about like doing this and then doing this, making fun of being a stay-at-home mom and all of this. I literally got a bartending job based solely on making the person reading my resume laugh hysterically.
I love that. And that's what people don't realize, though, is that I was afraid to get Googled as well because I shared my story and it went global and, you know, I changed my name and then I had a lot of shame. I had a lot of guilt. And now I do not care. Now it is my social humanitarian responsibility to share my story because I have a platform and I don't have much success, but I have enough to be able to share. And I need people to know that it does not matter what color you are, where you came from, who your family is, what you've done in your past. What matters is what you do today, how you make those decisions.
That is such a new development in the history of the world.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to think about this for a second. Go back 100 years, just 100 years. It's 1921. 1% of households in the US of A have running water and electricity. 1%. That's
crazy.
So in 100 years, this is the first time in history, in all of written history, that safety and happiness are an obtainable goal for the general population.
That's powerful. Yes.
Think about that, though, because 100 years ago, you couldn't even think about safety when you're trying to figure out how, you know, when you're worried about safety things.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even until the invention of the internet, you know, in 1989, that shift even happened.
Yeah.
Because the being a business owner, like entrepreneurship's new because we used to be business owners. When I started doing business, I had never heard the word entrepreneur. I ran businesses because that's what you do. You wore like a suit with shoulder pads and like I was a business owner. It took me a long time because I was like, entrepreneurship's bullshit. Y'all are just like doing all this flashy stuff, selling people shit they don't need. And I'm like, I just, no. It took me a long time to embrace that word because I saw it as so fake and superficial. It wasn't until like the movement really changed that I was like, okay, yeah, I'm probably not just an entrepreneur, but a serial entrepreneur because I sleep this stuff.
Thank you so much for saying that, because I was like, at what point do you stop becoming an entrepreneur and you become a business owner? Like, when do you graduate, right? When do you get to say, I'm a business owner? I'm not an entrepreneur, because I didn't even know how to spell the word entrepreneur. I did not sign up to be an entrepreneur. I signed up to be a business owner, a CEO of a C Corp.
Right. So here's how I define it. If it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. Yes. You are a business owner or an entrepreneur the moment you have cash flow. If you do not have cash flow, you do not have a business, you have a hobby.
I have a hobby.
Like, cash flow is what is the difference between a hobby and a business.
Absolutely.
That's the defining line, because there's lots of people that are famous for their hobbies.
Yeah.
But they make no money. They're famous for their hobby. And sometimes their hobby is TikToking, and that's cool. But the defining line between an entrepreneur and a hobby, between a business and a hobby, is money.
Yeah. When I got my first client and they were like, well, how much is your service? I don't know why, but I was like $80. And then I paused, and then I was like, a month. Like, I was just so nervous. And so, like, I had an idea. I had like this whole process, and all my products have price, but I never put a price on my services, right? I never put a dollar amount as to what it's going to cost you for me to provide these services, because now I have to implement them. I have to do all the work to put all this together for your business.
Right.
And then I was like, wow, I said $80. Like, this is worth so much more.
Right. That's what I call your cheap hoe offer.
Yeah, I did that. I had a flashback of Hollywood Boulevard. Like,
that was your cheap hoe offer. You got to get that shit out of here.
It's like, why am I hooking on Vine in Hollywood when I'm supposed to be on Santa Monica and San Vicente? Like, this is awkward.
Kill all the cheapo offers. Right? We start at 4 figures. That's where we start.
I love it. And that's why my business partners are like, we're going to help you. We're going to actually put a price for you, because you just give them this number. Okay, I will, moving forward. Absolutely. Oh, so we're almost out of time. We have 8 more minutes. Yeah. I want to say thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Again, if you guys are tuning in, we are here with Jes Rich. She is the author of Everything I Know I Learned from My Pimp, Surviving Trafficking and the Anti-Trafficking Movement. If you want to purchase her book, you can visit her at www.jesrich.com. And then one thing that she kind of tiptoed around, but she just started her company, which is Transforming Pain for Profit. Mm-hmm. And so she has these wonderful workshops that, if you want to learn more, please visit her website.
That's actually a free class. It's a 2-class bundle. Is Transforming Pain to Profit. So you can go and get that free on my website. That's jesrich.com. So what I do now is I help people grab the mic, be confident, tell their stories, write their stories, and then build the systems to stack cash.
Amazing. And people need to know that they can do that.
Yeah.
100%.
So if you're interested in that, start with going and taking my free classes. You don't have to pay me anything. Like, go and take the classes. They're 15 minutes each. It is like super simple, full of value, not sales pitch. And go and start that journey. Like, just come into my ecosystem, and like, what's the worst that could happen? You'd unsubscribe. We're going to be okay. Okay?
Absolutely. No, you won't regret it for sure. And so, and also make sure to visit one of our links for Covenant House. And right now we are but we are having a grand opening event on January 3rd for Corporate Diagnostic Center, who sponsors Entrepreneur Beginnings with Queer H CEO. We will be giving away an incorporation package with many other prizes throughout the day, and that will be on January 3rd. You can sign up for that at Queer Hispanic CEO on Facebook. We also will be we've partnered up with QuickBooks to give all entrepreneurs 40% off of their QuickBooks services for the first 6 months. And I do have to ask you before we go on with this. There are two questions that I always ask people at the very end, okay? So, what are some of the things you wish you knew then? What's one thing that you wish you knew then that you know now about being an entrepreneur?
Schedule time off. Absolutely no exception. Like, you have to have scheduled time off, self-care every single day.
Every day? Wait, I thought we were talking about like once a month. Oh, you mean every day? Like how much? Like hours or?
Well, I spend about 3 hours in self-care a day.
Because this is important because we don't realize.
Self-care for me is things like everything from reading a book to shaving. You know, all those extra hairs that you get as you get older. All the things that you need to shave. Like, I'll be listening to an audiobook and just plucking away. Like, taking the time, I take about 3 hours a day to just come in my room and be in my own space. I could be sitting in my chair reading. I could be plucking in the mirror. I could be taking a nap. I could be doing anything every single day.
It is 100% important.
Just for me, not about my business, not about anything else. I only do things that bring me joy and make me money.
Yep.
And if you think about it, we're awake, I believe it's 123 hours a week. We're awake. So if you sleep 8 or 9 hours a day, 7 days a week, you have about 123 hours in a week. Mm-hmm. If I can't figure out how to spend 3 hours of those days taking care of the biggest investment that I have, myself, then I can't get anything. I'm going to be burnt out. I'm going to be fried. I'm going to be overwhelmed. I cannot show up as the person, parent, business owner, employer that I need to be.
Absolutely.
Take breaks. It's scheduled every single day. And for me, it's the first 3 hours of my day.
I agree with that 100%. I didn't know the importance of that until I started getting sick. And my spouse is like, it's been a very long time since you just stopped. I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, I took yesterday off. And like, don't you remember you were on your phone? And I was like, was I? And I'm like, oh, I'm still processing. You know, I have to put my phone away. I literally have to throw my phone underneath the bed and disconnect, turn my computer off, turn lights off, close the door to my office, and completely say that is done for just an hour, but 3 hours. I like that. Yeah. All right, final question. So, in closing, what is the one piece of advice you would like to share with the world? With let's say with future entrepreneurs, one piece of advice. See what it would be different than what you just said. Almost you said the advice, but this is different.
It's time is time. Money is money. Time is not money. Separate the two. Ooh. So many of us get stuck in this cycle of I have to labor to receive money. That is industrial age thinking. We do not live in the industrial age. We live in the information age. We live in an age of technology. Work, labor, is for robots and AI, neither of which am I or you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I hate that we were out of time, but we were just speaking with Jes Rich. Yes, exactly. My name is Valentino. I am the host of Entrepreneur Beginnings with Queer Age CEO. We do have a new product coming. Please visit us at www.THSUNS technologies.com. We'll be building business apps globally. All right, you guys, until next time. See you next week. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Don't hang up.